Dear students, I welcome you all to this course on geometric design. We are going to sail through this particular course and we will be speaking about and discussing the various factors which are related with the roads, and all those physical features which you can see on a road are going to be covered one by one in this particular course. By the end of this course, I hope that you will be having a sufficient knowledge on the various aspects of geometric design related to roads, and you will be able to design any system or any road as and when it comes to you for the design as a traffic engineer or a transportation planner or a traffic planner. Now, when we look at this particular course, then we will require to see first of all that what are the things which we are probably going to cover in this course throughout this 30 hours lecture. In that direction, I can take you towards all of those things which we are going to cover in this and the today's lecture also, that are the specific points which we will be covering as we start with our module 1. So, here what you can see is that today we are going to first of all have an introduction of this course. The second thing which we are going to look at is what is geometric design, what is the definition of that, what is the need of a geometric design, and how it helps us in the better planning as well as a comfortable ride for the road users once the facility has been provided and implemented at any location. Apart from that, then when we will be starting with the module, we will be looking at the design factors and their categorization, and within those design factors and categorization, we will be talking about the use based aspects, and that is going to be the first factor which we are going to discuss in this particular interaction. Now, if we come to the course content, as you can see here, the course content has been divided into 5 modules. The very first module is the design controls. In these design controls, we are going to look at the factors which affect the design of various facilities on the overall system, not very specific to one particular type of facility. And then we will also be looking at the classification of the roads, wherein we will talk about the urban roads as well as the rural highways and what are the various classifications within those. And then a specific one which we are going to talk is in terms of the functional classification. The next, in the module 1, we are going to talk about the space standards. So, how much space is required and which is to be taken up at any particular location, so that a facility can be constructed in the right manner. That is what we are going to talk here, and this again we are going to look at for all type of roads or categorizations. That means the urban roads, the rural highways, and even in the specific conditions maybe for hill areas too. One important aspect in the design is that what is the visibility which is available to a road user or a vehicle driver ahead on the path or on a road, and that is where the sight distance requirements is one another important aspect which we are going to talk here. And this aspect we are going to look at in terms of the overtaking also. We also will going to look at the night time driving in terms of the distance which is visible to a driver under the headlights. We will also look at the requirements on a horizontal curve or a vertical curve, and we will also talk about the sight distance requirements at an intersection. So, this whole which is being talked just now is going to be considered in the first module which is being talked just now. The another thing which we are going to talk as a module 2 is related to the various cross sectional elements. Now, if you have seen the urban road as well as you have seen the national highway, you must have noticed there is a big difference between the urban roads and the national highways in terms of the physical features which are being provided on that. In this direction, we will try to see that how the things are going to be different if we have different type of roads in terms of the number of lanes, say a single lane system or a 2-lane system or a multi-lane highway system, or even in the case of expressways. And when we are very specifically talking about the urban areas, you must have noticed that there are lot many pedestrians as well as the bicyclists in the urban areas, and specifically the small cities or the medium sized cities, and that is where we also will be talking about the pedestrian facilities and the bicycle facilities in specific. With that, we will be covering our module 2, and we will move to the module 3, which is purely related to the design of the various aspects of alignment. And this alignment we are going to talk in terms of two directions. One is the horizontal alignment and the another one is the vertical alignment. Within the horizontal alignment, we will be talking about the horizontal curves, the transition curves, the super elevation which is to be provided, the extra widening requirements. So, all of these things will constitute the horizontal alignment as such. When we talk about the vertical alignment in the hilly areas, the mountainous or a steep terrain, which we are going to talk subsequently when we go ahead in this particular course, there we will be looking at the summit curve and the valley curve, and these two are defined as the vertical curves, or that segment is the vertical curves. When you are going to look at these summit curves and valley curves, then the another thing which is important is to look at the gradients, and that is one another aspect we will be discussing here. In some of the conditions you may find the horizontal and vertical alignment, they are overlapping with each other, and some information regarding that will also going to be talked, that how we are going to design and how we are going to place the various facilities, so that the driver who is moving on that particular overlapping alignment does not face any problem and is being able to negotiate that section with safety. When you will be talking about all of these alignment design, then we will also give some emphasis to the multi-lane highways and as well as to the expressways. That means, you can understand that we are going to talk about the rural highways, we are going to talk something about the urban routes too, and then the information, pertinent information which is there, which is related to these two particular categories as multi-lane highways and expressways, is also going to be looked at. The next module, module 4, is quite important in terms of urban areas, though it is not so insignificant in the case of rural highways. So, intersections is one thing which is going to be there, whether you talk about the urban routes or the rural highways. The only thing is the intensity of intersections which is going to be there is quite high in the urban areas, and that is where we are going to talk about this particular component specifically in module 4. There we will look at the various layouts or the geometric features which are going to be there when you have an intersection of a thing like one road meeting another road or a crossing another particular road, whatever is the type of condition, we are going to look at that. The need of channelization so as to maintain the safety of the different road users or the traffic which is moving in different directions. So, that is one another aspect we are going to look at here. Then interchanges, sometimes as we are talking about the multi-lane highways or expressways, then you need to maintain the speed, and that is where the interchange can be one another aspect we are going to talk in this module. And finally, we will also be looking at the auxiliary lanes in terms of the right turning specific lane or the speed change lane or the acceleration or the deacceleration lanes, and what type of design, what type of length, etc., needs to be provided. So, those are the things we are going to talk in this module 4. The last module, that is module 5, is related to the design of facilities. It is not that so far we have not talked about the design of any of the facility, but we have talked about those with the intent that they are already there at a particular road and that needs to be provided, but here we are going to talk about some specific aspects. Like very important one is a parking area, because your vehicle is not going to move throughout 24 hours in a day, it is going to stand for a substantial time, and that is where the parking areas needs to be designed. Then the bus bays and shelters is another important aspect. When you are talking about the urban area, you have the city bus systems. In many of the cities now, the BRT, the bus rapid transit is also there, and that is where we have to see that how these buses can be stopped, how the people can get in and out of the bus, the alignment and the boarding is going to be there. So, whether that can be done on the main carriageway or you have to provide it at some other distance away from it is what we are looking here. The truck laybys is another important thing, because if you talk about an industrial area or if you talk about a consumption or a production center or a city is working like that, then the truck traffic is going to be quite high, and therefore, this is one another aspect we should talk about. And lastly, we are going to talk about the toll plazas, and this toll plazas is now the talk of the day, wherein on all of those national highways, expressways, multi-lane highways which has been constructed with the help of various concessionaires or the private companies, the charges are going to be there, and that is where the toll plazas have been created. So, what is the type of design which needs to be there, what are the various facilities which should be there on a toll plaza, all of those aspects are going to be covered when we will discuss about the toll plazas towards the end of this course. As you can see that there are lot many things which are being discussed here, and I hope and understand, I am confident that by the end of this particular course you will be able to reply to any of the question being posed to you during the interviews at any point of a time which are related to this particular course, and you will be successfully covering and going through that particular interview. It is going to be quite important because all of those construction or all of those consulting agencies which are working in this area, they are primarily working in the area of geometric designs. They are designing the roads, they are creating the plans and drawings, and that is where if you have an idea about this, then that is going to be a very good input from your side to the company, as well as the company is going to be get beneficial out of you. With this, we are going to now move into the our course, that is geometric design. Now, very first thing is that what is the geometric design? Now, when we talk about this geometric design, as I said, there are a lot many physical features which are going to be provided at the top on the carriageway. So, all designs related to those physical features is what we are going to talk here, and these physical features should be designed in such a manner that they guide the road user or they guide the person who is using that particular facility in a proper manner. And what we say in a proper manner is that our aim is to achieve a safe, smooth, comfortable, efficient and economical operation. So, whatever the vehicles which are moving on that road, they should remain safe with respect to each other, the flow should remain smooth, the riding should be comfortable, and from the economic side, each and every aspect related to this flow should be efficient and economical, and that is what we are trying to go achieve just after having the design of all these physical entities. Now, why we are interested to do all of these things is what is being explained next. The first thing is that we have to see that whatever the facility which has been created, that is being created for the horizon year. When we say horizon year, it means we are looking at the design period, and this design period, that can be something like maybe only 5 years, or it may be as high as 20 years. Now, in the 5 years or 20 years span, the things may change a lot. There may be new technology vehicles, there is going to be the increase of the population, there is going to be an increase of the vehicular ownership and the vehicles which are moving on the roads, and therefore, whatever facility we are creating here, that should be adequate enough so that it is going to provide a comfortable movement of all road users on that particular facility, even up to that design period or horizon year. So, that is what is the very first thing which we need to talk about and look at. The another thing is that the design should be self-explaining in nature. You as a traffic engineer or traffic planner, whatever you have provided to the road users in terms of the width of a road, in terms of the type of facilities which have been provided on the road, how the curve has been designed, whatever these aspects which are there, they should not come as a thought process where you say that I am going to provide it and the user should use it. Rather than it has to be a user based approach, wherein whatever design is being provided is self explaining in a nature that the driver or the vehicle or the any of the road user are able to understand what does that mean, and therefore, they comply with that, and that will result in the efficient and the safe operation on the road. So, this is one another important thing, and you should try to achieve these type of designs. Another design is a design should be forgiving in nature. What does that mean is that there should be features within your design that if any vehicle goes into a erroneous movement or any driver commits an error, there is a scope to rectify it within the time frame, so that whatever is happening does not culminate into an hazardous situation, or there is no major injury or there is no fatality because of that sort of an error. So, that can happen in terms of a design, that can happen in terms of the provision of the various safety devices which can be provided. So, you have to look at it, what are the conditions which are prevailing at that particular area in where you are going to provide the facility. Based on that, we should try to see that the errors get rectified and the operations keeps going as such. The last thing which is to be looked at is an economic aspect, and this economic aspect is not only going with respect to the provision of the facility, that means you are going to construct it and therefore you need a capital money to do that, but at the same time the operational economy should also be there. That means all of the vehicles, if they are moving at a speed which is a desirous speed at which the fuel economy is going to be there, probably that is what we are trying to look at, and we will be discussing about this towards the end, and there we can see that we are going to talk about the level of service which is related with these type of things. But what I will try to emphasize here is that your design should be self explaining as well as forgiving in nature. Now, when we look at the self explaining road design, what does it mean is what is being shown here, where you can see that there are different lanes being defined and they are very specifically being defined by way of the markings. There is a median on which the crash barrier is also being provided, because it is a narrow median. It says that the directional traffic has been segregated. When you are moving in the same direction, then also there is a segregation, probably by way of a speed. So, you can say that the highest speed is going to be here and the lowest speed is going to be on the inner side of this curve, or it can also be utilized by the different categories of vehicles. You have probably the proper illumination. On the right hand side, if you look, the fencings has to be been provided. Therefore, if any vehicle goes out of control, it provides some opportunity to come back. Even if the speed is quite high, it is not going to culminate into a hazardous situation in terms of a fatality, because the land which is being provided on that side is an earthen land, and this will help in improving the safety for the erroneous vehicles. On the other design, which you can see, the railings have been provided in terms of a steel ropes which are there. So, if any vehicle which hits here is going to divert back, and that is what we are intending here to provide a design, but at the same time this is being provided at a certain distance away from the main carriageway. So, there can be some space which is being provided at two levels. That means there is a setback at which this facility is being provided, and even if the vehicle is still goes and hits there, then it is coming back. So, again you are providing an opportunity to the driver to rectify the error. So, how you are going to do all of these things is that you need to put each and every element in a systematic manner. If all of these elements which are physical features, if they are not being provided in systematic orientation, then you are not going to get the intended uses, or you are not being able to provide the facility for the intended users. In that direction, this is one aspect which becomes important, and we are going to talk about these in detail further. Who are these intended users and uses? Okay. Then the another thing is for whom we are going to design all of these things. So, we are going to design these things in general for all the users who are there on a facility, but at the same time we may also be designing these for specific users. Say, as we talked in terms of pedestrians or bicyclists, there may be a possibility that we are going to provide a specific facility for them, and if we take some designs with respect to say BRT, then that can also be one such element. And when we are designing all of these things and we say again and again users, who are these users? These users can be vehicles. That means we have the two conditions, both motorized and non-motorized, or we may have the human beings who may be there in terms of drivers or they may be there in terms of passengers. So, we are going to look at the aspects related to them, and that is what we are going to provide the facilities. So, here you can see in this first photograph which is there on the left hand side, there are different users who are there on the same carriageway. You have the motorized vehicle, you have the bicyclist, and you have the pedestrian who is crossing that road. And if this interaction is looked at and the people are not vigilant with respect to each other's movement, then it may culminate into an unsafe situation. But when we look at the another photograph on the right hand side, what we can see is a dedicated space is being provided, which is being provided with a texture, so that it becomes clearly visible even to the motorist that this is a section which is to be used by somebody else, and that somebody is also being marked at the ground level, and is the bicyclist is the one who is going to use this facility, and that is where we have separated out the two users from each other. So, we can say that there is a mixed condition and there is an exclusive use condition being shown here in terms of these users. So, finally, what we are going to achieve on the here. So, we are going to achieve the balance between accessibility and mobility. These are the two aspects we are going to look at. We will also see that the flows which are going to be there across the spaces, they happen at a desired level of service, and this level of service can be with respect to flow, this can be with respect to speed. These are the two parameters which are visible to the user. The third parameter can be there as a density, but that is not visible access to a person. So, this is what we are usually going to talk. Then the safety of all type of users, as well as the property which is there on the side of a road, this is also we are going to achieve if the design is good. We will have a comfortable and convenient ride. This is one another aspect which will be there. Then the operational efficiency is going to be there, and this operational efficiency will be in terms of various aspects of the flow, like there is going to be minimum of delays. The travel time is also going to be minimum across the spaces, and if the cost is also going to be low, and that is going to be the complete win-win situation for any of the road user. So, if we can provide that sort of an operational efficiency is what we are trying to look when we provide any of the facility. But when we provide this facility, you must have observed one thing: as soon as a road comes up, the economic development starts taking place all around that road. Or a road reaches a particular area which was not accessible before, you will find that the development starts taking place at that location. There will be lot of you can say the construction activities going on, or different type of land uses are going on. So, when these land uses or activities are going on, then these are bringing nothing but the upliftment in that particular area in terms of the economic upliftment, as well as in terms of the livelihood which is going to improve in that area. So, that economic aspect is also associated with your proper design. And finally, the thing which we are going to look as is a preservation of ecology and environment, which is quite important in the case of multi-lane highways or in the case of expressways. Now, these are the facilities which takes a lot of space, and if they are being passing through a forest area or they are passing through any reserved area, then there can be a issue to the flora and fauna in that particular area. Or the environmental condition, they can also become an important aspect even in the case of urban areas. You must have heard again and again on TV or in the newspapers regarding the pollution which has happened in Delhi, and the level of pollution which has gone to a very severe condition. So, that is also an aspect where one of the contributor to that pollution is the traffic. So, these are the things we are going to achieve when we are going to have a good design, and that depends on you how you are going to do it and translating it in future. Now, let us look at what are the various design control factors. What I have done is that I have first of all categorized these design control factors, and then we are going to talk about these factors one by one in this interaction as well as the interactions to follow. The first categorization which is being done is use and user related factors, where we will be talking about what can be the various types of uses, who can be the users of those facilities, and when we combine them, what can be the type of facility which needs to be provided in a particular area. Is it going to be a mixed use? It is going to be an exclusive use? It is going to be a segregated one? It is going to be a separated one? What exactly is that? That is what we are going to talk there. We are also going to talk about the projections, because when you talk about the users, then these projections are going to be there with respect to the vehicles, with respect to the population, and this population is resulting in terms of the users on the road. We are also going to talk about the projections for land uses, because these land uses are going to attract or generate the traffic, and that is what we are going to deal when we are talking about the geometric designs of various facilities. The another broader categorization which is going to be there is related to the road systems. Here we will be talking about the classification of roads, the traffic related aspects, the speed related aspects, the level of service of a facility which is going to be provided, and the capacity which is there, and these things are going to define the size of a facility which needs to be provided with respect to the traffic volume which we have talked in the previous slide, which is going to be also an input here. And lastly, what I have done is that I have capped the rest of the factors as external factors, wherein we will be talking about the terrain or the topography. We will be looking at the funds which are available for constructing and implementing that facility. We will be talking about the type of safety which needs to be ensured, and then the political thought process which sometimes drive the type of schemes or facilities which needs to be provided in an area or in a region or in a countrywide situation. And then we are going to talk about the ecological and environmental considerations as such. Now, let us move inside these design controls one by one, and we will be speaking first of all with respect to the use and user related factors, wherein use, users and projections are going to be taught. So, let us talk about the factors related to uses. Now, two photographs have been shown here, one at the top, another at the bottom, and what you can see is in the first photograph at the top, the two lane carriageway is being provided on one side and on the other side. In between there is a median. There is an open space being provided on the either of side of this particular alignment or the construction of a facility. That means you have a ample land here available to you. If tomorrow there is a requirement of enhancing this facility in size, you can always do that. But if you talk about the lower one, you can find that there is a development in this side, there is another type of development on the other side, and if you are interested to expand this facility, though it is already a good size of a facility which is there, you will not be able to do that. Now, when you look at the first one, it is trying to give you a connectivity between the different cities, but when you look at the second one, it is basically a facility which is being provided within the city. In that case, we have divided in these two things into two forms. One is being defined as an intercity type of a use, another one is being defined as an intracity type of a use. Now, when you are looking at this intercity type of a use, here we are going to talk about various aspects. Now, first is mobility, where if we say that the speed is going to be there, at what speed we are going to move on this facility which is intercity, then we can also assume that we can very easily move at a speed of something like 100 kilometers per hour. But if you are talking about the another one, you will not be able to move at that speed, and it may be something like 60 kilometers per hour only. So, when you talk about the intracity, the emphasis shifts to the accessibility to the various spaces which have been provided within a city. But when you talk about the intercity, we are more looking forward towards the mobility aspect. And that is where we say in intercity we are looking at the high speeds, but the relatively low speeds are being looked at the intracity case. We have more space available in the intercity alignments as being shown here, but in the intra-city conditions, because of the built up area there are restrictions, and therefore, this open space which is available in intra-city is going to give you a flexibility in the use of various spaces and expansion of a facility, but the built up area is going to create the space constraints, and therefore, we have to see that how much space needs to be provided to a particular road user in terms of either vehicle, motorized, non-motorized or pedestrians, depending on what is the amount of volume of those particular users in that area. And last thing which is there is that the low intersection density is going to be there in the case of intercity roads, because access is usually not being provided on these multi-lane highways or expressways. But if you are talking about intracity, now and then you will find a side road is coming or another road is crossing, and that is where there is going to be a high intersection density, and this high intersection density is actually also causing an impact to the relatively low speeds in that area. So, we have to look at that if these are the conditions, then what type of a facility needs to be provided. Then let us look at the another one which is related to the strategic facilities, where there can be either the geographical frictions or all other connectivity needs to be provided. Say we are talking about the roads which have been constructed by the border roads organizations in the border areas or strategical important areas. So, these type of facilities are going to require some different thing than what you are going to provide in an urban area. Similarly, if you have roads in the educational areas or hospital areas, they are quite sensitive areas, and therefore, the facility type or the way the facility is being operated is also going to be different in this case. When you look at the various other uses which are there, which are defined here as residential, commercial, shopping, recreational and industrial, then in that case also you can see that in the case of residential area the traffic is more of a local nature. In the commercial area it is for a small time period the activities are going on. So, the facilities may be required in that form. Shopping means you may require n number of n types of vehicles which are going to be there in this case, and you have to see whether you can provide the facilities for them or not. Recreational is like you talk about more of a peace of mind, say for these facilities probably have to be at farther area, and industrial may talk about the more of the heavy vehicles in that, and therefore, the facilities needs to be provided for those type of vehicles. So, let us look at on all of these things, and with these we are going to close our this interaction today. So, we can see that in the first photograph this is a area which is intensified by the snow, and therefore, you have to see that how that is snow can be removed at that area, so that this road can function throughout the year without losing any connectivity on the other side of it. So, this is one road which is being constructed and operated and maintained by the border roads organization. If you look at the another photograph which is at the center at the top is for a residential area, and in this residential area the requirements are going to be too local in nature, that there are going to be pedestrians, there are going to be bicyclists or motorized two wheelers or at the most cars, and that type of facility need to be provided. But if you look at the shopping area, then lot of activities are going to be there around the shops, and therefore, if it is a mixed use, then this is going to be hazardous, or even if it is being allowed, then the vehicles will be moving at a very low speed, and that is not a desirous situation here. The another one at the bottom on the left hand side is a Atal tunnel at Rohtang. So, this is another type of friction which is there. So, you have to cross a hill, and if you keep going all along the hill, then this is going to create an issue. It is a long distance, operational costs are going to be more. Now, this tunnel which is roughly around 9 kilometers long has reduced the distance by 40 kilometers and the time by around 4 hours, so as to reach on the other side. In the center here, this is an area which is intensified with the industrial activities, and that is where the more of the trucks are there. And one feature which I can tell you about this particular photograph is that this is a road which is being constructed with a steel slag waste, and is probably one of the first roads being constructed in India with that. And finally, when you look at the last one, you can find that the various dedicated spaces have been provided for pedestrians, bicyclists, or for the movement of the people in terms of a recreation. So, that is another type of a design which can be there. So, we have got an idea about that what type of various uses can be there, and that can create an impact in terms of the type of facilities which needs to be provided. With this, we are going to close our interaction today, and we will be continue with the controlling factors in the next interaction which is going to follow. Thank you, and we will meet next time.